I will also, mispronounce every single thing in Portuguese.
Abolished by the monarchy against the interest.
Yeah, Pedro II, I think.
It was his daughter, Isabella, the Lei Auae, if I remember correctly. It was under his administration, but she was regent at the time. And then the Pope gave them a golden rose, which is like an Oscar, but for Catholicism.
Yeah, I love the golden rose thing.
And then there's the third independence war, which is what segues into the Spanish-American War. But over the course of this time, you get actually, this very strong Cuban independentist movement with strong ties in the rest of Latin America and especially in the United States. And the guy in the middle, the bottom middle, is Jose Marti, who is like the George Washington of Cuba in a lot of ways. He's a poet, a lawyer, a revolutionary. He's the father of the country.
Incredible mustache.
And today, very good mustache. The day that we record this, January 28th, is his birthday.
Huh.
Oh.
Which is why it was funny that it worked out that we recorded it today. He was tortured by the Spanish for advocating for Cuban independence. He was the leader of the Partido Revolucionario Cubano, which also helped advocate for Puerto Rico. So I played that Victoria thing, and it was good. So he is like traveling around the United States, trying to raise money to do the revolution. He actually dies in battle in 1895. The second guy next to him on the right is Maceo, who is the second in command of the Cuban Revolution. Bbee is a guerrilla that is fighting the Spanish in the islands. And so he helps popularize the machete as the weapon of the Cuban Revolution, and that like an actual like real believer in the Enlightenment.
Shit. Yep. Yep.
Incredible political strategist, military planner. He also died in 1880. Yeah, I mean he's named after him, and these are, and then finally there's Maximo Gomez, who is kind of like the Sherman of this whole saga. He is the Generalissimo of the army. He's highest in command. He basically started this sabotage campaign. He blows up passenger trains. He torches sugar plantations, including American-owned ones. He finances an unsuccessful revolt in Puerto Rico. This guy survives due to the power of his mustache. Weird combo. Basically, like, you know, I want to go over these with Cuba and this long nationalistic struggle to build a independent Cuba that is free. And if we go to the next slide. So even after slavery ends, and this is all going on, the economy is still like largely based around agricultural export.
I half read the slides and I got to this phrase, even after slavery ends, the economy is based, which...
it's actually very cringe. Like, if
historians debate about this.
If you look at the American South, a lot of the, a lot of black that is kind of what happens here. Chinese contract workers are brought in to Cuba and
also
are treated
familiar,
very terribly.
Just to be like, hey, you know, waves and waves of we need cheap labor. We can exploit. Where can we find them and treat them
very similar.
Can we figure out a way to pay these guys negative wages?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's, you can see the. I think those are the. This is a sugar melt. On the left. And then like the rest of the industrial facilities. Actually, Cuba is one of the first countries to get railroad. It is used to transport goods for export.
One of the
but
classic uses of a railroad.
thankfully, if we go to the next slide,
19th century 9/11 happened.
I forgot about this. The Spanish-American War was one of the most infected, saying something, and the USS Maine explodes. Oh, now I remember.
Yeah, now. Well done.
it's the main attraction.
The powder magazine of the USS Maine blows up in the port of Havana. Probably on account of how everyone is drunk off their ass. Yeah, exactly. Not very interesting. Like maybe the Spanish have to pay a fine or something.
But like, there's been revolutionaries who are like, "Hey, U.S., why don't you annex us?" And also a bunch of slave owners prior to the Civil War who were like, "What if we annex Cuba so we have an extra slave state?" So people have been trying to get Cuba free.
There's this idea of the Golden Circle, as you say.
Golden Circle,
like,
yeah.
You have this new sort of like arc of slavery that goes all the way around the Caribbean and sort of like the northern part of South America. But
anyway,
yeah,
down with the Confederacy, Union forever.
Yeah, and William Randolph Hearst wants to sell newspapers, right? Because he wants to beat Pulitzer, and so you have
Private equity firm buys the newspapers, and this newsroom's laid off. So
So the death of print media.
yeah, and so the USS Maine and its explosion are used to justify carrying into making you know, Spain
whatever you got.
Yeah, Spain has a lot of shit, and so
Kind of succession crisis. I mean, you know, and they're Spaniards.
yeah, I mean, what the U.S. gets out of it in the end is, incidentally, also Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines.
Oh, I'm very aware of that one. Ask me my grandmother. Water and electricity have to leave. The United States occupation of Puerto Rico. At the same time, they also just as a funny historical note, the Spanish are like, oh fuck, the moment that the war happened, and they like contact Ramon Blanco, who's like messages Maximo Gomez and is like, hey, it's like together, and that's nice, and Maximo Gomez is like, and so obviously the Cuban representatives, and the Spanish are kicked out of Cuba and Puerto Rico, and
Cuban independence.
making the career.
You can tell by the way in which I said that word, the confidence in which I have in Cuban independence at this point.
Independish.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting that meme that's like, oh, it's free, or like,
Yeah, exactly. Like again. Right, it's not but like this is the case where the
yeah, so this precisely, you know, this basically, you know,
right.
yeah, the occupation, the military, or the Spanish-American War results in the career of Teddy Roosevelt. It also results in American military occupation. The Tower Amendment explicitly bans everything else, and so they were like, okay, we're gonna occupy you until you come up with and they did come up with a new constitution. It was amended you can see that amendment right there in the middle. The amendment basically makes Cuba a satellite of the United States. You can't herald the Cuba at the discretion of the United States. You can't sell off their territory to anyone other than the United States. Cuba can't take on foreign debt. The U.S. can intervene in Cuba at any time when they think it's necessary. Democratic Republic or whatever. If we could go back to the, I don't know if it's too far, but if we could go back to the map of Cuba real quick. If you look at that little island, you know how there's like turquoise?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's called Isla Winfud now. But at the time it wasn't called that. I forget what it was called. But they were like, yeah, your claims to this is not recognized. It's up for state now. And also they gave, to go back to the military. They also like give the U.S. land for polar stations.
Naval base. United States naval base is Guantanamo Bay. Yeah, it's where Jack Nicholson eats breakfast 400 and it's where the United States approaches towards 21st century history to date. And it's kind of sticking around as a weird extrajudicial facility that maybe kind of uses still that.
Precisely. So on the left you have the
some naval stuff too. This is shit that's important when you need to coal shit. Now you don't need to do that. It doesn't really.
We just have it because it's nice.
Pretty much, and you know,
give
like,
up on that.
I mean, that's also like why we have one of the reasons that we initially got Puerto Rico, and then it turned out.
It is at least, by the way, like the U.S. government pays
Right at the Cuban
Yeah, and Castro doesn't. Yeah, he hasn't. Well, he had before he died. He had a whole war in his death because all the the Puerto Rico also naval base. British fleet was going to. You all fell. So you're welcome for not letting that happen, but
See,
also
this is the
for
thing.
Puerto Rico.
Fidel Castro, right? We'll talk about him in a minute, but I will say
This guy.
that in terms of strength of will, if you just mail me a check every, I don't know, 6 months or whatever for rent, eventually I would cash it out of boredom. I couldn't have them piling up on my desk.
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah. My desk is a disaster, but still, right, exactly.
Yeah. I want to know if there was a circumstance in which Fidel would cash the check. What does the U.S. have to do?
I mean, initially, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Initially, before they get really like.
funds, you know?
Right, exactly. During one of the idiotic fucking standoffs, just all
Oh, yeah. The Treasury looks at its balance and is like, what the fuck? Oh, my
Saying is that it's charging economic against the US that it can cast at a precipitous moment.
Okay, so
Next time we start approaching the debt limit.
I think that actually is illegal due to the embargo, but we'll get to that. The guy on the left is John R. Brooke, who is the first military governor, and then when the U.S. withdraws, Cuba elects a president named Tomás Estrada Palma, who is living in the U.S. at the time and maybe did some election manipulation.
Cool.
that's crazy.
In documents, his reign or his time in office is often referred to as a regime. So, you know,
regime
Always a good sign.
I love to call things regimes. So when his regime collapses, we occupy Cuba. That's right. We occupy Cuba again.
It's just gratuitous at this point.
Yeah. Just to be like,
If you're aware of the concept of the Monroe Doctrine, it means that the United States basically had like free license to just occupy every single fucking country they wanted.
Cuba abhors a vacuum, right? If there's no guns, then this is good. Otherwise, the Spanish will show up again.
Alright, next slide. The first use of that one. On this slide, you will see just the development of Havana during that period of time, from the early 1900s to the 30s. And you'll have, yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's Havana is gorgeous. You know, on the top right is the Prado. We just Spanish it is there is some sort of distinguishing feature opposed to English, it just becomes Havana because nobody knows what so it's just Havana. But like
Tom
yeah, exactly. So they just adopt it and it's Havana. But in Spanish, it is very much La Habana. People from Havana are called habaneros, which is where the name of the pepper comes from. So on the top right, you have the Prado. Bottom right, you have the the docks, the way of San Francisco. The United States keeps meddling with Cuba the entire time. The Liberal Party calls in American troops to brutally suppress the Partido Independiente de Color, which is a bunch of black Cubans agitating for rights. Because at this time there's like way segregation. I don't know how to say this other than it's exactly as bad as the United States.
More segregation, yeah.
Muy segregado. Exactly as bad as the United States, if not worse. And we'll get to that a little bit, but like, you know, the various they call in American troops to suppress like
cultural
protests.
victory, baby.
Yeah, exactly. But the whole time, Cuba is very dependent on the U.S. market because it's right there. The flight from Miami to Havana took like 45 minutes.
Yeah, by seaplane and shit, you know?
No, we flew on a regular plane.
No, you didn't. Shut up, Noah.
I thought you meant like
back then.
then.
Yes.
No.
I understand.